love taking risks in fantasy football, especially in the later rounds where we're hunting down that untapped upside that's going mostly overlooked. Quarterback is a perfect position for that, especially this season with so much depth in the back end of the draft, and especially in best ball leagues where risk and uncertainty are totally your friend. You're trying to win a large field tournament, right? You're not trying to take home the trophy in a 12-team home league, even though this video is also 100% for you as well, so don't go anywhere. But in best ball, your natural strategy has to change. And this video isn't specifically for best ball either, but July is best ball drafting season. And that means that Underdog Fantasy has two huge tournaments drafting right now. One with over $1 million to first place and a $3.5 million prize pool, which is the biggest in best ball history, and another with up to $50,000 up top and only $5 to enter. I've absolutely loved drafting over there at Underdog, and there's no doubt that if you're not already over there, you're going to love it too. Use the promo code AWESEMO when you get started. That's AWESEMO. You'll get $25 when you sign up and deposit. Head over to Underdog Fantasy, use that promo code AWESEMO, get your $25, and start drafting today. You're going to love it. Now let's get to our top 6 late-round quarterbacks to draft in 2020. But before we do me a favor, if you don't mind, if you've enjoyed these videos and you think they've helped you out along the way, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and leave a comment on what you think about the players on this list. I read all the comments. I respond to all the comments, even if they're not so flattering. Let's get into it. Matt Ryan has attempted 600-plus passes in 7 of his last 9 seasons and has finished with at least 25 touchdowns and 4,500-plus passing yards in all but one of those years. And while he's had a couple disappointing campaigns along the way, Ryan has been a top 10 fantasy quarterback in 8 of his last 11 seasons and has clocked quarterback 12, 7, 2, 14, and 3 performances over the last 5 years. Another thing about Ryan that often goes overlooked is his ability to stay healthy. Ryan has missed 1 game since 2010 and 3 of a possible 208 games for his career. So while Julio Jones is no longer in Atlanta, Ryan will still be equipped with some excellent pass-catching options in Calvin Ridley, who I think could legitimately finish as the wide receiver 1 this season, but definitely inside the top 5, and Kyle Pitts, who became the highest selected tight end in NFL draft history just a few months back. Russell Gage is a respectable 3rd option in the passing game, and Mike Davis is a perfectly capable receiver out of the backfield too. Ryan led the league in passing attempts last season, was 4th in yards, and 12th in touchdowns. And that was with Jones completing only 7 games. Ryan was also 3rd in red zone attempts and targets to the end zone. And with 2 serious threats inside the 20 like Pitts and Ridley, who caught 7 of his 9 scores inside the 20 last year, there's reason to believe Ryan could easily cross the 30 touchdown threshold again this season. Ryan is currently the 17th quarterback going off the board with an ADP of 138 on Underdog Fantasy. He makes for a fantastic stacking option with Ridley, Pitts, Gage, or even a late-round flyer like Olamide Zaccheaus, and has one of the highest floors at his position. Now we just need him to produce one of those ceiling years like we've seen him do plenty of times in the past. Aaron Rodgers is coming off an MVP season in Green Bay where he threw for a career-high 48 touchdowns and accounted for 51 scores overall. Amazingly, he finishes the QB3, not the QB1, behind Josh Allen and Kyler Murray, which just proves how valuable rushing upside is for quarterbacks who may not be elite passers like Rodgers. We'll get to that in a little bit. Since being installed as the Packers' full-time starter back in 2008, Rodgers has posted top 2 finishes at his position in 7 of 11 seasons, where he played at least 15 games. The other 4 finishes, 3rd, 7th, 10th, and 11th. He's currently being drafted as the QB 13 with a 112 ADP on Underdog, and as I'm sure you've heard me say many times before, basically no player is undraftable if they fall far enough in the draft. With the uncertainty swirling around Rodgers' status in Green Bay, there's no way we're drafting him as a top 5 or 6 quarterback right now, which is where he'd likely be going otherwise. But taking a shot on him outside of the starter range is huge. This is also where drafting earlier in the summer can help pay huge dividends if you're smart about it. And it's looking more and more like he'll play this year, whether that's for the Packers or somewhere else.
Welcome to the Osmo NASCAR Strategy Show. We're here to get you ready for tomorrow's Foxwood Resort Casino 301. We are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. Of course, we're going to break down the entire DFS slate for you. We'll give you some Monkey Knife Fight plays that we are targeting tomorrow for this race course. As always, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Always do appreciate that. If you're not subscribed to Osmo here on YouTube, you got to do that. Got a ton of great shows for you each and every day. We are lined up with shows today. We got UFC Live Before Lock, MMA Live, or excuse me, MLB Live Before Lock, and also NBA Live Before Lock. So a ton of great content. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you know when the show is live here on the channel. Of course, as always, here for the NASCAR Strategy Show, I am joined by Phil. Phil, always great to talk to you. And one of the things of, just kind of start getting into this race that stuck out to me that you tweeted about this morning as you were starting to put together lines, whether it was on DraftKings or on FanDuel, you noticed you were leaving more money on the table than you normally would.
Yeah, it was something that it felt kind of more like an anomaly initially, because I was putting together FanDuel lineups first. And if you guys don't play on FanDuel, the incentive is definitely to play on DraftKings, but I mean, you can make up, basically you could play all of your cash on FanDuel. It's really simple there. And then plus you can play around with 150 max for less than $40 in their 25-cent game. But I was playing around with my lineups and found, man, consistently I'm leaving, $500 plus more, $1,000 more, especially with these initial cash games that I'm putting together. It's really weird that it's nice and strong and consistent like this, that it's just over and over again, so much salary left over. So then I go over, start making my DraftKings lineups, and I'm finding the same process. And quite frankly, I think it comes down to the fact that, especially here on DraftKings, we've still got Larson relatively up here compared to the rest of the field. And then on DraftKings, you've got an anomaly like Daniel Suarez being the most expensive that he's been in 2-3 years, and other situations like that, and then some underpriced guys. It's an odd week, and I had some people reach back to me saying, yeah, I was finding the same thing. So tomorrow, if you're building these lineups for the Foxwood Casinos Resort 301, and you're finding like, man, I've got $600-700 left over, and I still really like this lineup. And if I go up just to spend for the sake of spending up, I like the lineup less. Don't do it. I mean, you are going to find yourself with leftover salary this week.
Yeah, I'll tell you, as I look here at my spreadsheet of the salaries, there are 3 drivers that I have highlighted because of the price differential between DraftKings and FanDuel. And one of those definitely is Daniel Suarez, $8,900 on DraftKings, $5,700 over on FanDuel. We'll talk about him a little bit later. The other 2 drivers that I highlighted, Alex Bowman, $8,200 on DK, $10,000 over on FanDuel, and then Ryan Preece, $7,800 on DraftKings, and then $4,000 on FanDuel. We will talk about those drivers here later on in the show as we get down into the tiers there. Do want to let you know, if you're not a member of Osmo Plus and you want to see what is behind the paywall today, free content, NBA ownership projections, MLB top stacks, and UFC pro play. So if you're not a member of Osmo Plus and you're just kind of want to know what you do get behind the paywall, that is today's free data and tools over at Osmo.com. Let's first off talk about this track here in terms of how we're developing our lineups. I know you and Alex in the past have done videos about, when it comes to the track size of how to construct your lineup. So talk a little bit about the track here.
Yeah. The preview, which will drop at some point tomorrow morning, in there, I come clean that preparing for this race, it's a quandary. Like this is a real pickle. New Hampshire, it's a mile long track, kind of flat. It has what they like to call progressive banking, but for the most part, this is a flatter venue. We only get one race here a season. There used to be two. The second race it lost to Las Vegas during the playoffs, but we only get one race here a year. And when you're looking for corollaries, okay, we can look at Phoenix because it's a mile long as well. It's kind of got that progressive banking, but shape wise, like if you look at an aerial photo of New Hampshire, it is just the perfect oval shape. Meanwhile, Phoenix has some weird dimensions to it. We could possibly look at Richmond, but remember Richmond is 3/4 of a mile in length compared to the mile here. Some people, because of the flatness, might look at Martinsville, but I mean, when we're losing half a mile in length, I think that definitely does play with what you're looking at. And then as far as the other tracks this season that we've seen that use the high horsepower, low downforce package, of course, I never look at the Bristol Dirt Race. That's just a one-off thing that kind of happened all on its own. You've got Darlington, which is, I believe, about 1.33 miles, but I mean, we're talking a little bit longer, plus just tons of banking, high tire wear. Dover is a little bit longer than a mile, I believe, and it's kind of the same issue as Darlington. And then you've got Nashville, which has the progressive banking, and it's a little bit over a mile in length as well. But that track is so commonly referred to as a super speedway because it races like an intermediate track that I'm really not looking to compare it all that much here to New Hampshire. So for the sake of corollaries, we're left with Phoenix and we're left with Richmond, races that happened way back in the spring, and so much has happened since then. I mean, we have the corollaries and we have these drivers and what they've done, but New Hampshire really is the ultimate question of form versus track history, considering how long it's been since we've had these races. So with a lot of these drivers, you have to make the decision, do I weigh their history here over the last 3 years or longer, or does what they've done in this package this season matter more? And depending on what you weigh more, it's going to put you on certain drivers versus others.
Mention this question from the chat from James: oval shape track equal less crashes?
We don't really seem to see that many like crashes or wrecks here, but I will say over the last 2 seasons at New Hampshire, and this of course includes the segment breaks, that there have been a total of 10 restarts. So we will have issues like a tire going down. In fact, in last year's race, Christopher Bell cut down 2 tires. That put him a couple of laps down, and you will see drivers spin out. But just the whole aspect of wrecks, I think that's something to probably not count on too much going into that. Tire wear is really not that much of an issue here. There will be a competition caution, and you could very well see people decide either I'm not coming in or just to go in with a 2-tire strategy. I believe that competition caution is coming somewhere lap 25 or lap 30.
Now, one of the best ways that you can score a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum is to review your favorite Awesemo shows on the Awesemo Podcast Network. Almost all of our shows are available there at awesemo.com/podcast. And be sure to submit a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username included. You'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One lucky winner is awarded every Friday. Your reviews are eligible for up to 1 year. This is a simple and easy step for most likely your best chance at winning a free month of Awesemo Plus, which is valued at over $90. So head over and do that right now, so you'll be eligible to win up to a year. Good luck over there. Now, when we talk about our roster construction, Dominator build, place differential. So in terms of a Dominator build, how many Dominators do we need to have our lineup as we're just starting to kind of put that lineup together?
Traditionally, New Hampshire has been a 2 Dominator build, and quite frankly, last week because of Atlanta, it was good to see a 2 Dominator race instead of one guy just running away with the race. So if you want to go with a single dominator build, you're just going to take the stance that one of these guys starting up front, kind of like every other 750 horsepower race that we've had this season, one of these guys is going to grab the bulk of the laps. And if I look at the laps led data page on the race sheets, I have to go back to the fall race of 2015 to find an instance where one guy ran away with this race. And out of all of these races going back to 2013, that is it. There is one instance. Everything else has been two dominators or a third dominator kind of peeking in there, getting 40, maybe even 50 laps led. But for the most part, this has traditionally been a two dominator race. So for cash games on DraftKings, baseline is 2, and quite frankly, for tournaments, you're probably still looking at 2. As far as FanDuel goes, you can definitely take the one dominator approach since there's only 30 laps led points that are going to be available. And this is something that I'm probably going to struggle with up until lineup lock, is if you're only going to go with a one dominator build, and this carries over to DraftKings as well. I mean, I don't really see one driver that is just standing out so far above the rest warrant saying that this is going to be my guy in cash games. They all have their flaws, but they all have their definitive pros for them. So, on FanDuel, you can take the one dominator approach, but I think you're probably going to feel safer if you throw at least a couple of darts at dominators. But for FanDuel, there's enough guys starting up towards with salaries that are high enough to have place differential that you can definitely take some swings with a one dominator approach. But for the majority of you guys playing on DraftKings, it's definitely a two dominator build.
Of course. So let's get into those top tier salaries. So those will be the drivers that are 10K and above over on DraftKings. So we've got Kyle Larson starting 10th, 11,200. Kyle Busch starting first. He has 10,900. He's priced all DraftKings. William Byron 16th, 10,600. Kevin Harvick starting 12th, 10,300, and Denny Hamlin starting 6th at 10,000. So let's start with the pole sitter here in Kyle Busch. Obviously, can get those laps led here at the beginning of the race. 10,900 on DraftKings, 12,500 on FanDuel.
Yeah, Kyle comes in after running fantastic at Atlanta. We highlighted him last week as the second most likely driver to dominate, and I mean it wasn't even close. He was the top car last week, and quite frankly, if it wasn't for Ross Chastain blocking there at the end of the race, he probably would have beat his brother. But the problem is that this is a different package, and in the 750 horsepower package this year, Kyle has been good, but he's not been fantastic. His best finish has been a third. That was at Darlington. But in our two corollary tracks of Richmond and Phoenix, the finishes were 25th at Phoenix and 7th at Richmond. That includes 6 fastest laps and a whole average of half a lap led at the two venues. So he managed to get a lap led at one of these two places. But just overall, looking at these finishes, 25th, 10th, 8th, 3rd, 27th, and 11th, it's clear he's been better in the 550 horsepower package compared to this package. Plus, you've got everything working against him as the pole sitter. You've got the competition caution. You've got history working against him. Going back the last 3 races, which is what's the data set that we use in the race sheets, the pole sitter in last year's race, 2 laps led. In 2019, 12 laps led. But you go back to 2018, there were 94 laps led. And then in the 2 races in 2017, 137 and 187. So it has been trailing down. But the thing that you got to remember is those 2 laps led, the same scenario that we've got for Sunday's race. No practice, no qualifying, competition caution. Kyle could easily lead until that competition caution, and then something squirrely happens. Somebody decides not to come in. Somebody decides to take 2 laps, and Kyle loses that lead, and then he's stuck back in traffic in a package that he hasn't been nearly as good in. So once again, this kind of goes back to form versus history. Kyle's finishes here over the last 3 years, 38th last year, had a tire cut down. He was one of the first guys to exit. and then 8th and 2nd. He is over these 3 races, and that's even with that 38th place finish last year. He is still averaging over these last 3 races 32.7 fastest laps and 51.3 laps led. So the numbers have been good. The problem is in this package, he just hasn't been nearly as good. So this week, I've got him highlighted as a dominator play, but he is a very fringy cash play because all it takes is that first pit stop, and it could be a fight for him trying to get back to the front.
Kyle Larson, the most expensive driver. I mean, that's just rinse and repeat every week. We say that every week. 11-2 on DraftKings, 14,000 over on FanDuel. Of course, starting Tim, so a little bit a place differential potentially there. What is your kind of thoughts on Kyle Larson? I mean, do you want to be over or under the field potentially on him?
Oh, I threw out this crazy conspiracy theory, and you guys understand when I throw out stuff like this on Twitter, it's not me thinking, hey, this is my idea and this is what I'm running with. This is more or less me saying, hey, this is a point of engagement. Let's talk about this because we know for sure that neither the Fox or the NBC NASCAR pundits are gonna talk about these things. We talked about that crazy scenario before the first Pocono race where NASCAR came to supposedly and allegedly, let me please get those 2 words out there, came to Hendrick and said, hey guys, we know what you're doing with the Bondo in your noses, knock it off or we're going to come down on you like the wrath of God. And since then, Larson's been finishing well, but he hasn't led any laps since that first Pocono race. Now, yes, he was ultimately going to win that Pocono race before he cut down a tire, but both of those Pocono races were fuel mileage races. And then you go to the road race at Road America, which had the 750 horsepower package. He had an okay day, and it got made worse by getting spun out. And then, last week at Atlanta, he was a top 10 car, but I mean, he was nothing close to leading. So, is this the new Larson? Has the 5 team cracked down on what was allegedly happening, and now they don't have that speed? Because if that's the scenario, then I can't trust Larson, especially as the highest priced driver here on DraftKings and FanDuel. If this has just been nothing but happenstance, then this is the week to get back on Larson, especially after he let everybody down last week at Atlanta. The last 3 races in this package, his finishes at Darlington, 2nd, Dover, 2nd. That was after leading the majority of the race. And then Nashville led the most laps, wasn't even close, and ended up winning that race. So this is the next race using that package. And if this is the form that he's coming in with, and there's nothing going on with Hendrick and the noses, then my God, people are jumping off of Larson and they're jumping on to all of the Toyota drivers. It's definitely the week in tournaments to get back on Larson for cash games at this price. I don't want to play Larson. If you do want to play Larson because you're taking the stance that nothing is wrong, nothing's going on, then Larson could easily lead the most laps and pay off that salary on both sides. But for DraftKings, for cash games, I'm going to say go down the board, but he still has to be in the periphery as a potential dominator. I believe in my 20 max lineups on DraftKings, I still ended up with 20% Larson this morning.
Now, when you want to get access to all the great tools and content we have over at Awesemo.com, you got to sign up for Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium data and tools we have over Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our premium Slack channel, lineup builder, and so much more. And if you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, then you got to take advantage of the promo we have going on right now. You see it there on the screen. NASCAR Strategy Show, all caps, one word. Use that promo code NASCAR Strategy Show for 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And now if you're only looking for a NASCAR DFS weekly pass, you can get that for $9.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Great. It's a tool I use each and every day, whether we're talking about NASCAR, MLB, NBA, MMA, whatever it is. I'm using those tools that have made Alex Awesemo Baker the number one DFS player in the world. And you got to, ownership projections is my go-to. I'm always looking at where can we potentially, find a little bit of leverage here. Now, when we look at the other three drivers in this tier, Phil, so we got William Byron starting 16th, Kevin Harvick starting 12th, Denny Hamlin starting 6th. I know based on some chat we had a little earlier, Denny Hamlin is someone that has got your interest here for tomorrow.
Yeah. Yesterday, when I was doing my research for the betting article that I put out every week, look for the finish line. It'll be at some point tomorrow morning. It caught my eye just how much driver movement there had been up at the front. For the last couple of weeks, it had been basically, here's Larson's number, and it's probably going to get shaved off a little bit. And if you want to get plus money on this, you better jump on it early. Well, this week, Larson opened up as the favorite at 250, but I believe if you look now, he's not the favorite anymore. He should be the third or the fourth highest favorite. And who so happened to jump him? Well, it was Denny Hamlin, who went from plus 800, and now he's sitting somewhere at plus 400 or plus 450. And we'll then, we'll go into the next year. We'll talk about the driver that's the second highest favorite. If the betting market is any indication of what's going to happen with ownership tomorrow, you may as well expect that Hamlin's going to be the highest owned out of all of these drivers in this tier. He's going to soak up the ownership as a potential dominator. He's underpriced considering his history here at New Hampshire, back-to-back second place finishes. Outside of Nashville in this package, he's yet to finish worse than seventh this year. If you look at the two corollaries of Richmond and Phoenix, he's averaging the most laps led at 120 per race with 64 fastest laps. He's one of only 3 drivers to finish in the top 5 in both of those events. I mean, everything is lining up for Hamlin to be a fantastic play tomorrow. The only problem is it looks like everybody's jumping on that bandwagon.
Let me ask you this in terms of the other two drivers in this tier, William Byron, Kevin Harvick. They're separated by $300 on both sides. Byron, $300 more on DraftKings, Harvick, $300 more over on FanDuel. Sell me on why, if you come down to it's either Byron or Harvick, sell me on why I should take Harvick. Or you can't.
That's the shame in me as a salesman, is that I'm trying to quickly come up with a reason why you should take Harvick over Byron, and it's just not there. Harvick has fantastic history here. He's the only driver that in the last 3 races here at New Hampshire has finished top 5 in each of those races. Should have been a factor in this race last year, but had some troubles and was still able to race his way back into 5th. And then 2019, 2018, won both of those races. That's the problem. That's not the Harvick that we have this season. He gets you top 5, top 10 finishes in this package, the 6 races with 750 horsepower package, those finishes 6, 9, 24, 6, 6, 5. Starting 12th, he's going to get you, let's just say he's going to get you a 5th place finish again. He's going to gain you 7 place. He's going to gain you 7 place differential. Well, that's good, but there's no trust whatsoever that he's going to give you any laps led, and the speed has been lacking so much this season that I don't even know, as he's making his way through the field, that he's going to find a groove or find a line that's going to gain you any fastest laps. I do have that trust with Byron. Similarly, he's giving you top 5, top 10 finishes. The last 3 races in this package, they've been 4th, and 3rd. He's averaging you 7 fastest laps per race out of the Phoenix and Richmond races. Yes, his history here over the last 3 years, it's not fantastic. 11th, 12th, and 14th, but Byron has improved so much. The speed for that team has definitely improved. I just feel like Byron while I can't project him to win, I do think that he's going to gain you some dominator points in the process of giving you a top 5 finish. But this is the tough thing with both Byron and Harvick is they're not dominators, and they're priced up so much with a little bit of place differential that they're really just tournament plays that you're playing in lieu of a dominator this week, really.
Now we move on over to tier number 2. This will be the drivers in the 9K and 8K range over on DraftKings. Go ahead. Chase Elliott starting 3rd, Joey Logano 15th, Brad Keselowski 11th, Martin Truex Jr. 2nd, Daniel Suarez 31st, Ryan Blaney 7th, Kurt Busch 4th, Eric Almirola 22nd, Alex Bowman 5th, Chris Buescher 17th. So let's just start with the guy that we know is going to be popular. Martin Truex Jr. starting 2nd, 9,100 on DraftKings, 13,500 over on FanDuel. I just fill up with this way. I mean, how can you avoid Martin Truex Jr. this week on DraftKings at 9,100?
Yeah, avoiding him is intentional. Like you are purposely playing the ownership game to stay away from Truex. The smart move last week in hindsight was staying away from Kyle Larson at that salary, thinking that he couldn't lead. And of course it didn't happen. And on the flip side, it's this way with Truex this week. He's going to soak up so much ownership at this ridiculous salary. You know, if Hamlin could get priced up to that 10K range, then Truex should have seen something similar, but DraftKings leaving him at this price point, he very well should be the highest owned driver on this site. And quite frankly, 13.5 over there on FanDuel, I mean, it makes him an easy selection there. Truex, it doesn't matter if it's in the 78 or here in the 19. He comes here, he gives you a top 5, a top 10 finish. He leads laps in the process. He gives you fastest laps. He's going to be a consistent. He's always going to be a consistent part of optimal lineups. You know, even last year, if I go back to this race last year, all Truex did was go from 11th to 3rd, scoring 56.2 DraftKings points at $10,700, and he still found his way into the optimal lineup, and with the 3rd highest score that day. Truex he's a stalwart of consistency here. You look at the package, of course, he's got 3 wins in this package. He's got a win at Phoenix. He's got a win at Martinsville. He led the second most laps at Richmond, finished 5th that day before Alex Bowman finally won. And then at Darlington, just ran away with the race and finished 1st. Truex, like I said, him and Hamlin. If you think you've got something sneaky going on DraftKings with a Hamlin and Truex lineup, guess again. That's going to be the highest owned dominator pairing tomorrow. And quite frankly, there's going to be don't be surprised if all of the Toyotas are over-owned tomorrow, just because of how good Toyota has been of late at this track. Truex is the 2nd highest favorite outright on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. He went from plus 850 to somewhere around plus 500 over the course of the week. I mean, the betting market loves him. The articles and the podcasts that I've consumed so far, they love him. It's he's gonna soak up a ton of ownership, and the question that you have to ask yourself is how likely is he to merit this? And you know, based on my opinion, it's very likely.
So there's 2 drivers in this tier that I highlighted just because of pricing, and we'll get into the first one here. Ton of place differential sitting there for Daniel Suarez, but over on DraftKings, you got to pay $8,900 to put him in your lineup. FanDuel, totally different story, $5,700 over there. So let's look at the DraftKings equation here. Daniel Suarez, obviously a ton of place differential.
Yeah, starting, I knew that DraftKings would get aggressive because, I mean, Suarez, what did he start 29th last week at Atlanta, and he was in the high 7,000s, and now starting just a hair further back, he gets priced up another grand. Suarez's history here at at New Hampshire. It's fair. Don't look at last year. That was in the Gaunt brothers. Before that, he's consistently been a top 20, top 15 guy. And, in this package, the last two races, they've been top 10 finishes at Dover and Nashville. You might get a little dissuaded looking at what happened at Phoenix and Richmond. But remember, that was the beginning. Let's just say that was the beginning of the year. But quite frankly, a 21st at Phoenix and a 16th at Martinsville at Richmond, if that's the baseline of what we're expecting from Suarez today, picking up 15, maybe even 20 positions, I mean, that's going to be a fantastic day. And you just got to smash him on FanDuel at 5,700. I mean, if you want to make him your highest owned driver, either him or Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who we'll get into later, make him your highest owned driver on FanDuel. It's fantastic. The salary's great, tons of place differential, tons of potential to finish with the top 20, top 15 finish. But here's the conundrum that you bring up: nearly $9,000 on DraftKings. When this earlier in the season, when that had been Matty D or Eric Almirola or Alex Bowman, that was an easy choice. The driver of the car, it definitely made it possible for them to reach value. But here with Suarez in the 750 horsepower package, it's a tough road to climb. This is kind of the same conundrum that we had last Sunday with Chris Buescher at a similar price with much less place differential. It's normal lineup construction this week. You're not going to land on Suarez. You are going to have to be intentional about getting to him, which makes him fantastic as a tournament play. And quite frankly, I think a lot of people are going to find themselves playing Truex plus somebody else above 9,500 for cash, and then tag along Joey Logano in that equation. But really, when all we need is a floor in cash, if you wanted to go down from Logano to Suarez, who has 16 more positions to gain and is just a little bit cheaper, I'm not gonna fault you for that, and wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the optimal direction to go in cash tomorrow. But from what I've found from my lineups, like I think I ended up with maybe 5 to 10% this morning on DraftKings. You have to be intentional about getting Suarez in there, because standard projections they're just not going to put him in there at that salary.
The other driver that I highlighted in this tier is Alex Bowman, who's starting fifth, 8,200 on DraftKings, $10,000 over on FanDuel. What's your take on Alex Bowman here?
Bowman, definitely not a cash play. He's underpriced on DraftKings, so I do like that. That makes him viable as a tournament option this week. And quite frankly, based on what we've seen out of Bowman in this package, this ability to hang around the top 5 all day and then sneak away with a win like he did at Richmond and Dover, it gives him a little sneaky upside as I want to call him a mini dominator, but somebody that's going to end their day with 20 fastest laps and 30 laps led and possibly win. For a guy at 8,200, I like that in tournaments, and he's going to be probably the preferred pivot off of a guy that's just a little bit cheaper that I'm expecting to pick up a ton more ownership.
Of course, this is the Awesemo NASCAR Strategy Show, and we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. Their player prop-based contests are easy to play, and they don't require the time commitment that other DFS sites require in order to be competitive. And with Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge. And when you sign up, make sure you use that promo code Awesemo, as Monkey Knife Fight has an instant first match deposit of up to $100 when you sign up with the promo code Awesemo. And for tonight's NBA Finals Game 6, Monkey Knife Fight is also offering contests over there. So be sure to check out that. Now we're talking about Monkey Knife Fight and NASCAR. Let's look at two that stuck out to us here. First off, a guy that is in this tier 2. That will be Chase Elliott. He's starting third. The number Monkey Knife Fight has on him is 16.5.
Yeah. Going back to the race sheets, this has been a track that Chase should be better at. Chase has been good in this high horsepower package. You remember him winning at Martinsville last year. You remember him winning at Phoenix. And with that, those corollaries in mind, it makes sense that Chase should be better here. But over the last 3 years, his best finish has been fifth. Before that, it's been a bunch of top 15 finishes, and then he had a ninth last year. You look at this package so far this season for Chase: fifth at Phoenix, second at Martinsville, then 12th at Richmond. Since then, seventh at Darlington, third at Dover, and then very disappointing 39th at Nashville. I'm taking the under on Chase. Not going to project him whatsoever to lead laps, and think that he's going to end up somewhere in that 6th to 10th place range again, which is going to put him on the under.
Of course, you see it right there on the screen, the more or less, and you compare him up with Kevin Harvick, more or less 15.5.
Yeah. We talked about the foibles of Harvick earlier, that he's been doing well in this package, but he's definitely not exceeding expectations. And I'm going to take the same path with Harvick that I did with Elliott, that I'm not going to say he's going to lead any laps, so he's not going to get any of those bonus points, and he's going to be somewhere between a 6th to an 11th place finish tomorrow. So we're going with less once again.
Of course, be sure to head over to Monkey Knife Fight and use that promo code AWESEMO for an instant first match deposit of up to $100. By the way, ownership is up on the site, so you can check that out over awesemo.com. If you're a Awesemo Plus member, you can check that out over there, as that is up there. We'll talk about some of the those drivers that we are definitely going to be looking to roster here in a moment here. You mentioned about Chase Elliott starting third. We got Joey Logano 15th, Brad Keselowski 11th, Eric Almirola 22nd, Chris Buescher 17th. As you look at the rest of these drivers in this tier, what sticks out to you?
It's going to scare people, but I think this is another week to get back on Almirola. If he's got any positives to his season thus far, it's been in the 750 horsepower package. And in our two corollaries of Phoenix and Richmond, 11th at Phoenix, 6th at Richmond. Since joining Stewart-Haas, he has definitely been a better driver at these shorter, flatter venues. His 3 races here for Stewart-Haas: 7th last year, 11th in 2019, and then 3rd in 2018. And that includes averaging 24 fastest laps per race and 19 laps led. So if Eric's going to pull some, speed-wise, you're probably not expecting those fastest laps. But what's to rule out them using another crazy game theory, more or less, like they did last week? I mean, we got to the halfway point of that race, and who was sitting first? It was Eric Almirola. Who was sitting second? It was Ryan Preece. If they would have called that race because of rain, NASCAR Twitter and NASCAR DFS would have lost its mind, because those were probably two of the, especially on DraftKings, lesser owned drivers who put themselves in premium position trying to play that game. And this is what Almirola was left with. He's so far down in points, he's not going to make his way into the playoffs off of points. The 10 team's going to have to start doing weird things to try to take a win. And as good as Almirola's been here at New Hampshire over the last few seasons, and with really this package at shorter, flatter venues being his one shining light this season, this is going to have to be the track that it happens at. So I like the higher odds on Almirola. Like, if you're looking for a lottery ticket for an outright bet, I like Almirola. He started off the week at plus 25,000. He's probably sitting somewhere similar today. And with that place differential, with his need to win, he could really, really pay off tomorrow.
When you look at the drivers here who are starting at the top of the field, Elliott 3rd, Blaney 7th, Busch 4th, are you looking at them as in your Dominator, builds as you're going in the cruncher and you're saying, hey, give me at least 2 of these drivers in every lineup?
Yeah, that was the rule that I used on both DraftKings and FanDuel. I put together my list of Dominators, and just to let everybody at home know who they are, it's Larson, it's Kyle Busch, it was Hamlin, it's Truex, it's Bowman for the reasons that I talked about. That includes Blaney, and it also is going to include Christopher Bell. And I said, at most, I want 2 of these guys per lineup. So naturally, I didn't end up with any Chase. I didn't end up with any Brad. I didn't end up with any. I maybe had 1 share of Harvick and a couple shares of Byron, but the rest of these guys, they really kind of ended up out of my pool. Blaney, I think, is in the same boat as Bowman, where he could find his way to some dominator points, but he's not going to be the guy that leads the first or even the second most laps.
Of course, one of the things we always love to highlight here at Awesemo.com is the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Always love to see those screenshots after a sport has finished up for the day. And, of course, be a part of that Awesemo Hall of Fame. Download the Awesemo profile pic at awesemo.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at AwesemoHOF. Win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And of course, congratulations to Mike there, taking down his first takedown in UFC last weekend. Congratulations, taking down that captain contest and also the 60K contest over there. So congratulations there to Mike. Also, congratulations there to Frank, taking it down there in MLB. Saying they never played MLB DFS, but using all the tools we have over here at Awesemo.com and to get a winner there. Also, congratulations to TJ taking down in the Gold Cup Showdown contest over there. You got to check out everything we have soccer-wise here at Awesemo.com. Then we got Sham God taking down in NBA. And then finally, Peter taking it down there in MLB. So congratulations there. Getting into the Awesemo Hall of Fame. And do note that only 1 free month can be awarded to a user per calendar year. Always love seeing those screenshots after the event is over. So let's move on to tier number 3. This will be the drivers in the 7K and 6K range over on DraftKings. So we got Ryan Preece starting 25th, Christopher Bell starting 9th, Matty D 14th, Austin Dillon 13th, Ryan Newman 28th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 29th, Ross Chastain 20th, Tyler Reddick 8th, Eric Jones 24th, Bubba Wallace 18th, Cole Custer 21st, Michael McDowell 23rd, Chase Briscoe 19th. Let's start off with the third driver that I highlighted in terms of a noticeable price difference from DraftKings to FanDuel, and that's Ryan Preece. We talked about Daniel Suarez, how much he's priced up here, $8,900. Ryan Preece, $7,800 over on DraftKings, only $4,000 over on FanDuel.
It's the insanity of whatever this artificial intelligence algorithm is that DraftKings has built, that Preece has fewer place differential to gain, is in a tougher package for an under a mid-tier, lower tier team, but yet they're going to spike up his salary by $400. Unless you really have high expectations for Preece, and I think this really goes regardless of site, I think he's got to be hands off. I mean, what is his theoretical ceiling in this package at this track? 23rd, 22nd. And yeah, if he was 5,900 or 5,800, then I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense for cash, but not for $2,000 more. That it's just a driver I don't want any part of. And sure, there could be some just crazy shenanigans like last week. At one point, Preece actually passed Almirola and had the lead while they were hoping that the race would get called for rain. But I mean, crap, I don't want to play a guy, hoping for just the oddest of scenarios to happen tomorrow. Preece, unless you are doing 150 max and you're just trying to find just, a sliver of ownership just in case, calamity ensues, I think he's definitely hands off on either side tomorrow.
Now, you mentioned earlier about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. over on FanDuel. His price on FanDuel, $6,000, $7,100 over on DraftKings.
Yeah, Stenhouse, 14th here last year. Now, the last 2 finishes, they were definitely disappointing, 36th and 30th. But it's odd. It's something to point out that Stenhouse seemed to get better at the shorter, flatter venues once he left Roush and went to a smaller funded team, whatever you want to call it. For this season, in this package, let me scroll over here. Stenhouse's finishes, and this is definitely encouraging for our corollaries: 12th at Phoenix, 15th at Martinsville, 17th at Richmond. So we're looking at a potential top 20 driver. I mean, just a definite smash play in cash games. But then you move on: 20th at Darlington, 20th at Dover, a sixth place finish at Nashville. And then if you wanted to throw the Bristol Dirt Race in there because it is the same package, that was a second place finish there. Stenhouse has been really good in this package. It's one of those weird reverse corollaries where generally the mid to lower tier teams, they do better in the 550 horsepower package. And then once you get into this higher horsepower package, their results, they go by the wayside. But Stenhouse, he's been fairly all right in the 550 horsepower package, and he's been doing just the same, if not better, in this higher horsepower package. I really, really like Stenhouse on both sides tomorrow.
And of course, you look at the rest of this tier. By the way, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's very popular tomorrow based on ownership projection. I'll leave it there. So I think that's more of a question. Do you want to be over or under the field in terms of him? So as we look at this, I'll mention, because someone in chat said it's a Bubba Wallace week. Bubba Wallace, 6,500 over on DraftKings, 5,300 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I can get behind Bubba this week. He's got a little bit of place differential. Now, if you look at these finishes, you remember this was in the Richard Petty equipment, and I was looking at it just out of curiosity. The last 5 races for Richard Petty Enterprises here at New Hampshire, they're all like 22nd through 26th place finishes. So on the flip side, if you've got any kind of hope as Eric Jones as a cash play or maybe even a tournament play, Jones starts 24th. There's a good chance that he's going to peg out somewhere at 22nd or 21st tomorrow and really not be valuable for what you're paying for him. But as per Bubba, you look at 16th at Phoenix, 16th at Martinsville. His finish at Richmond was definitely disappointing, a 26th place finish, but then 21st at Darlington, 11th at Dover, and then a 20th place finish at Nashville. You've got the Toyota corollary. Toyota has run super, super well here of late at New Hampshire. And even these teams that have partnerships, so to speak, with Joe Gibbs, like just say, for example, Levine Family Racing. I mean, even those Toyotas ran super well here at New Hampshire. So the corollary is definitely there for Bubba to have a really good day tomorrow. You know, you wish that there was a little better history on his side there, but we're just going to chalk that up to the quality of the car. I think Bubba, maybe his ceiling is probably a 10th or 11th place finish tomorrow. But at the very least, I think you're going to get a 15th place finish out of Bubba at a fair salary on both sides.
Mention about Stenhouse in terms of how we're projecting him. Another driver this tier that we're projecting for a decent amount of ownership, that'd be Ryan Newman, starting 28, 7,200 over on DraftKings, 5,500 over on FanDuel.
Yeah, 21st place finish here last year, but before that, a 7th and a 6th. And in fact, if we go back to his last 10 races here at the track, a bunch of top 15, even top 10 finishes. Probably one of the keys to succeeding here, especially now that we know that NASCAR is not laying down the PJ1 stuff to improve grip, because the forecast just looked like they're going to be wasting their time if they did it. Side note, good chance that this race doesn't happen tomorrow. We may be watching racing on Monday afternoon, because it looks like tomorrow's going to be a washout. In fact, the Xfinity race may get rained out today too. But if this comes down to just a single lane track, then that's really going to set up Newman, who still can just block the hell out of everybody behind him and maintain position. Multiple top 10 driver, like we've talked about. The only thing that you worry about is, in this package are 2 corollaries, 28th at Phoenix and a 30th place finish at Richmond. Other than that, he's been primarily a top 25, even some top 15 finishes in there. So I think that if you're making a 1 versus 1 decision about Newman versus Stenhouse, I'm going to take Stenhouse 10 out of 10 out of 10 times. But Newman's still with that place differential starting 28th. He's still a very safe play for cash games tomorrow.
Who else in this tier sticks out to you as a solid tournament play?
I wrote up Ross Chastain and Gas and Go. He's been top 20 in every race this season using the package. He's got that weird split to him, like Ricky, where he's better in this package instead of the 550 horsepower package. You $7K on both sides. It's a little more than you'd want to pay for Chastain with him starting 20th, but I mean, you're probably looking at another 20th place finish, and he may be the best pivot off of Reddick, who I think is going to soak up some ownership as a GPP play. Going down the board, if you want to save some money, I'm okay with the idea of going all the way down to Chase Briscoe. He showed up in a bunch of my lineups, just kind of with the hope that he ends up with a top 25, a top 20 finish at that salary. And the guy that I know our ownership isn't saying this, but I'm afraid that he's going to get super high owned is Christopher Bell. Bell, 2-time winner at New Hampshire in the Xfinity Series. Ran really well here in that previously mentioned Levine family racing car. Started way back in the 30s, races way up into the top 5 before he dealt with both of his tire issues. In this package this season, 9th place finish at Phoenix, then 7th at Martinsville, 4th at Richmond, 14th at Darlington. His lone blemish has been a 21st place finish at Dover, and then a 9th at Nashville. You take the Toyota corollary that we've already been talking about. I really do think that Bell could manage to find his way to the front and knock down some dominator points.
Now, fantasy football is quickly approaching, and if you trust us with DFS, there's no reason not to trust us with your season-long and best ball fantasy football teams. The same data and analysis that goes into our DFS content and tools is going into fantasy football. We have plenty in front of the paywall for you to get started, including rankings and a ton of free articles and videos from Lawfully and Matt. There's a couple of things you need to do first, though. Go subscribe to the new Awesemo Fantasy Football channel on YouTube and follow at Awesemo Fantasy on Twitter, as well as the Awesemo Fantasy Football Facebook page. Start your draft prep with Awesemo Fantasy Football this season. Yeah, football season is here. Training camp for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for who I do radio for. Man, 1 week from today, training camp starts. It's crazy. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago. We were playing back in February, and I think 4 weeks from today is our first preseason game.
Nice.
It's crazy.
I can't wait for preseason DFS. Always love that.
It's always, to me, it's always amazing. Every year it seems that the off season just goes faster and faster. So be sure to check out the fantasy football covers that we do have for you over there. Before we get into some listener questions, let's go into the bottom tier here. So these will be the drivers underneath 6K. So Anthony Alfredo starting 27th, Corey LaJoie starting 26th, Cody Ware 34th, James Davison 37th, BJ McLeod 32nd, Garrett Smithley 33rd, Josh Blickley 35. Justin Yaley 30th, Quinn Hoff 36th. I always ask you this every week, man. How low can we go?
There is some viability to Half and Haley this week. Haley he's underpriced, 4,700. So you're $200 shy of the cheapest driver on this slate. Starting 30th, your hope is for Haley to just pick up maybe a handful of spots. And then if we've got a scenario, especially like if Larson ends up being optimal, and then you've got one more expensive driver like a Kyle Busch or a Denny Hamlin, and then maybe a couple of the higher place differential guys ends up paying off, like an Almirola or a Blaney, not a Blaney, but a Logano. There's a scenario where Haley or Half, for the sake of that conversation, ends up being optimal just because they score positive points. They allow that top heavy lineup to come together. If you're not looking to go that low, I like Corey LaJoie. You can play him in cash. You can play him in tournaments. His finishes here, they've been they've been what you would expect of a driver in a subpar car. 35th here last year, but then 23rd and 27th in the previous two starts. And then in this package, his last three finishes have three of his last four finishes have been 22nd or better. So if LaJoie can give you that once again, that'll be finding cash. And if he can sneak just a little bit higher, like say there's a few wrecks that push him farther into a top 20, then he could definitely be valuable in tournaments.
Mention we'll take some questions now. First off, let me start off over in our premium Slack channel, which of course is a great benefit of being also a Plus member. I will be in the office hour channel in about an hour from now talking today's UFC. But Mr. Moneybag says he's got a pair of questions here. So first question, Logano or Suarez for a DraftKings GPP?
I'm going to go Logano. I'm going to take the stance that Logano is going to do what he's done so far at these similar tracks. Second at Phoenix, where he led the most laps that day. Then third at Richmond. I mean, his knack has been this package this season. I think he's going to get you another top 5 finish, get you some fastest laps in the process, and maybe even get some laps led if he can really race his way forward. I think his ceiling is just so much higher than what Suarez offers you.
Another DraftKings GPP question, Reddick or Chastain?
They are the pivots off of each other. I'm going to say if you're looking for a little bit of safety built into it, it's definitely Chastain. But God, Reddick has just been knocking down top 12, top 10 finishes in a row, and it doesn't really matter the package. In this race last year, he finished 10th. Definitely could see him improve upon that once again.
JJT, no. Do you have any Xfinity plays?
Wrote up my Xfinity plays for the Am Better, Get Vaccinated 200. Quite a play on words for today's race. Love Christopher Bell. He's underpriced. He's going to get you place differential. He's going to lead laps. Spencer Boyd is the punt play du jour today. And then I think it's really just a matter of how many other Toyotas can you get. Toyota in the Xfinity Series has won, I believe, 5 straight and 6 of the last 7 there. Expect another Toyota to win today.
Alan asks, Byron or Larson for a DraftKings GPP?
Good gosh, with $600 worth of salary, I'm going to take Byron. I'm expecting a top 5 finish out of Byron, and yeah, you're probably going to get the same thing out of Larson, but at least Byron's going to give you a little more place differential and save you just a hair more money. That might be the difference between playing Bubba and then playing Ricky Stenhouse.
Of course, be sure to subscribe also right here on YouTube. Hit that notification bell so you know when a show is live here on the channel. We got a ton of great programming for you all day long. Of course, we got UFC live before lock, MLB live before lock, NBA live before lock. So keep it here locked all day long. Dalton would like to know, in terms of a FanDuel GPP, favorite low dollar driver.
If it's not going to be Suarez or Stenhouse, then you may as well just go down to Bubba. He's $5,300 this week.
Next up, James says, what's your expectations for Ryan Newman at 5,500 on FanDuel?
I think that we're looking at him picking up 9 to 10 positions on the plus side. And I perish the thought that if this is going to be like Phoenix and Richmond, then Newman's going to be a trap play tomorrow.
And of course, keep it locked here to Awesemo all weekend long. Check out all of Phil's content over at awesemo.com, a part of the NASCAR section there of the site. So that is going to do it for this edition of the Also NASCAR Strategy Show. By the way, we are off the next 2 weeks. No NASCAR next 2 weeks due to the Olympics. So we will be back there August 7th to get you ready for the Watkins Glen race. So appreciate everyone tuning in here on a Saturday afternoon. We will talk to you in 2 weeks on the next edition of the Also NASCAR Strategy Show.